So here we are at the end of the second week of summer. I hope you're having a great summer season. Today's episode is for you if you find that summer disrupts the routine in your life or business. I was having that challenge after returning from a week of holidays last week, and it got me thinking about one of my clients when I was working with her a couple of years ago. We came up with a plan B that set her free in ways that neither one of us anticipated. So on today's episode of Free Your Inner Guru, I'm going to share the story about that, and maybe you'll be able to create a plan B that lets you relax, enjoy your summer, and sets you free. Welcome to Free Your Inner Guru, and welcome back. If this is not your first episode, I am your host, Laura Tucker. Can you believe that we now have a baker's dozen of Free Your Inner Guru podcast episodes together? It's amazing how things accumulate. This is the 13th episode, and I want to share with you how much I'm enjoying doing this podcast. And last week, I spent an amazing week in New York City and then a wonderful day in Niagara on the Lake in New York. My husband and I were able to celebrate his 50th birthday, take in the fireworks, and go see the Blue Jays play the New York Yankees in Yankee Stadium. It was a blast. We got home on Thursday night. Friday, I took my mom to see an incredible play at the Shaw Festival in Niagara on the Lake, Ontario, which is on the Ontario side of Niagara Falls. If you are at all interested in the story of powerful women or people who were ahead of their time, check it out if you live in the area. I can't say enough about it, how it's staged, but all in all, it was a wonderful week. And then when I got back, I got overwhelmed with busyness. Because, of course, after holidays, we all have to catch up. And I found myself in a bit of a tizzy, otherwise known as overwhelm, when I didn't get a podcast done before Friday. Have you been there? Have you been at that point in time where even the things that you enjoy the most become tasks on a giant to-do list? The joy leaks out of them, and suddenly you're in your I'm not good enough. How am I going to sustain this? And you know what? There is no law that says I can't podcast on a Friday. There's nothing that says that it has to be done Tuesday or Wednesday. So whether or not you're listening to this on Friday, July 14th or not, here we are. And this whole experience brought me back a couple of years to when I was working with a client of mine who was in a very similar position. She was continually overwhelmed when she wasn't getting every single thing done every single day. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, you've been at this game for longer than 5 minutes, you're going to have to accept that you're never going to get everything done. And you probably don't have to get everything done. We came up with an idea of, well, what's your plan B? Because in this state of overwhelm, nothing great is going to happen. There's no law of attraction that's going to swoop in and magically save you, or extrasensory perception that's going to keep you open to every opportunity and great person that crosses your path. Because what happens when we get overwhelmed is that we tend to shut down, get tunnel vision, and become less productive overall. Now, there can be deeper reasons for overwhelm, but sometimes it just is what it is. And so I want to talk to you about Plan B. This is not the kind of Plan B that I think a lot of people think of immediately, which is if all else fails, do this, or a contingency plan, or one of my first big, Plan B's of that type was way back in 1997 when I left teaching and went and worked, took a job in the private sector. I was like, well, you know what? If all else fails, if this doesn't work out, I have my Plan B. I can always go back. So that's not the kind of Plan B we're talking about here today. I want to talk to you about having an intentional Plan B. And it can be an intentional Plan B for a day or for each week or maybe even for an entire month. But the core idea behind this is asking yourself, what is non-negotiable? And deciding that when the kids are off school and you're running them here and there, or your employees are taking holidays, or your social calendar and networking calendar is just full up and your priorities shift around like they tend to do for a lot of people in the summer, what is non-negotiable? So an example for a business owner who has employees, a non-negotiable is making sure your payroll gets done, is making sure that your invoices go out. And some of you will have departments that do that, but these things do not stop during times of busyness and shifted priorities. For me, one of my non-negotiables has become this podcast. And so what is non-negotiable on a weekly basis for Laura Tucker? It's doing a Free Your Inner Guru podcast. And you know what? It's a lot of work to put one out. So it means taking some time and it means having some resources. So part of my plan B, which eventually became a plan A, was to hire someone to help me get them posted. And it made all the difference. But the non-negotiable, and the reason why I'm sitting down on a Friday afternoon, is I'm looking back at my week and realizing I need a plan B. And you might need one too. So that's why I chose the topic. So going back to the idea, what is non-negotiable? What are the things that, no matter what else happens, in order to get to your long-term goal, they must happen on a regular basis? And then what is the interval of that non-negotiable thing? So a lot of people following up on leads or picking up the phone and contacting people or posting a blog, these are the non-negotiables at whatever intervals that you decide need to be done. So daily. So with this particular client, we set up what a perfect day looked like, where she got everything done and felt a tremendous sense of joy and satisfaction at the end, because it was just an ultimate day of productivity. Things went well. The results came rolling in. And then we made that plan A. Plan B, on the other hand, was what did she need to get done when there was disruptions? Because the honest truth was most days were not plan A days. So most days she was coming up short in her own expectations, and the level of frustration that she was experiencing was affecting every single thing that she did. Once we figured out plan B and gave her the permission that plan B actually was perfect in and of itself, and if she strung together many plan B days in a row and had the occasional plan A day, the occasional perfection, guess what happened? She no longer was in a constant state of overwhelm. She no longer felt like this was all less than, and then her results skyrocketed. So I wanted to share that with you today, because if you can take a moment over the weekend or early next week to reflect on during times of, and let's just, instead of just the summer, anything can happen anytime. So when there's additional load on your responsibilities outside of your business, outside of your workout plan, outside of your nutrition plan, whatever it is that's your number one priority right now, find your non-negotiables and then set yourself free by making them the first things you do before you go to your social media feed, before you go start reading articles online, before you start, if you're working from home, doing the laundry or any other distractions in your life. These are the things that are going to get you to your long-term goals, to those great big picture outcomes that are the reason why you're in this game in the first place. I'm Laura Tucker, signing off for Free Your Inner Guru. And I just have a quick request for you before we go today, instead of the usual ending. If you've been listening along for more than one episode, I would love to invite you to leave a review, especially on iTunes if you're an iTunes listener. Next week, next weekend, something very exciting is happening. I'll tell you more about it on Tuesday's podcast, but I'm going to have an interview air on Sirius XM promoting the podcast. And so more people than usual will be looking at it. And I would be so incredibly grateful if there were a few more reviews up there. That would be amazing. Just a quick hint, the way that I'll put on the show notes for today instructions on how to do that if you're not sure. But the tip is write a few comments in your notes on your phone first and copy paste them, because it can be a little glitchy and it sucks to have to retype, especially since it's mostly done from your phone. And so that's just something that I've learned from experience when I've reached out to people for reviews. So I'm Laura Tucker signing off for Free Your Inner Guru. If you take one thing from today's episode, let it be this: your results are created by what you do consistently over time. So you're much better off by having an intentional, consistent, achievable plan B than if you overwhelm yourself with an unrealistic plan A. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your summer, and we'll be right back here next week.